A recent leaked audio of a Louis C.K. set has drawn the ire of many who wish to continuously kick a man while he's down. That is not to say that Louis is not at least a little bit of a weirdo. The man who made it obvious that he enjoys touching or exposing himself to women has taken to not caring if he offends anyone even further. This sort of has always been CK's approach, however. But making a joke about Parkland shooting survivors has drawn particular criticism by those who wish to control all narratives and all speech, including comedy. Not on my watch, they say. A sensitive subject surely, but as he says, what does he have to lose at this point?
Fucking get offended. Listen. Fuck it. What are you gonna take away my birthday? My life is over. I don't give a shit. You can be offended, it's okay.
Starting with the weakest, the Daily Beast has a predictably sassy/lazy approach. Mock gender identity, make uncomfortable joke, well, that makes you alt-right. Why? Because calling someone alt-right connects them with racism and hatred, easy. A more credible approach can be found from Parkland shooting survivor Cameron Kasky, who often crosses over from left to right, usually leaning left though, in terms of political responses. Regardless, he does have a history of being somewhat reasonable. It's not my job to tell a comedian they're being offensive. I believe comedy exists to be offensive. I don't particularly like that CK went after the idea of the movement we started, but comedy is comedy, and I don't think me being offended by it should dictate whether or not it should be allowed to exist. Now, Kasky does go on to compare Louis C.K. to Milo Yiannopoulos. However, this is a seemingly unfair blurring of the lines between comedy and culture battles. Nevertheless, as Bill Burr points out, it has been comedians who have been word policing each other at what seems to be an alarming rate.
Jesus Christ, the internet, my God. Comedians, from a fellow comedian, please stop attacking other comedians. What are we doing? We need to circle the wagons here. Jesus fucking Christ. Don't comedians get enough shit? We're gonna sit here and fucking attack each other? The fuck are we doing? I feel like this is like at the end of the Blair Witch, when those kids kept ending up in the same place in the woods and they were losing their fucking minds. This is what's going on. Well, I for the life of me, I just don't understand how a comedian could trash another comedian publicly like that. I mean, amongst your friends, you got, this guy's a hack, this guy stinks, blah, 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 blah. I like this guy, you know. Everybody does that in every fucking... But to go on there and then to actually talk about what subjects should or shouldn't be discussed. I mean, there's like comedians out there, they sound like Tipper Gore back in the 80s when she was freaking out about hair metal.
It got crazy. It got to the point, like, I've seen, I'm not going to name names, but I've seen, like, you know, a tweet from a fellow comic telling comics what jokes you shouldn't talk about this topic. It's like, who the fuck are you? It's like, there's already going to be enough people doing that. You're going to do, like, cannibalism now? Well, I ran into this shit, you know, when the Me Too stuff first started coming out, people would try to, like, you had to tweet the right fucking thing, and if you said anything sort of, oh, let's look at the evidence, God forbid you fucking said that, and it just became like this whole, you're part of the problem, and then they would try to take you down, or someone you were friends with, or doing a show with, or represented by. You're going through red states, blue states, you're going through fucking everything, and the general consensus of people is like, dude, that was fucking crazy.
Maybe it was this excerpt from CK's set that prompted Jim Carrey to post what we can only describe as a medium to okay artist's rendering, coupled with a rather unfunny comment. Louis can't see, K. Hilarious, edgy, with a drawing of activist Emma Gonzalez. A closer inspection on the CK portion shows a mocking of his sexual, wrongdoings? What word should we use here? This isn't the first time Jim Carrey has chosen to side with the Hollywood holier-than-thou side. Louis C.K. did some weird, creepy stuff, yes. But we don't have to look back far to see Carrey thinking he was doing something righteous by purchasing Nikes.
Wow,
check this out. I went out today and bought me some Nikes.
Oh, yeah.
Some freedom-friendly Nikes.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. As a salute to Colin Kaepernick, to Nike, congratulations on your fantastic choice. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Nike, on getting me to buy your product by feigning interest in American political social justice, which can easily be refuted with statistics, all the while making your products in low-wage facilities in East Asia. I'm helping, Even in an attempt to say he loves everyone, Carrey's words reek of pompousness coupled with an obvious trust in corporate media and the way they portray certain characters.
And then there'll be some other weaselly little, sidestep they do or whatever it is. And, this administration is a rabid dog, and it's turning us upside down. And as far as I'm concerned, it's as obvious as the nose on your face. People have made these elections and politics in general who they are, and it's not who you are. You can make a bad decision about a candidate. It's not who you are. It doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean you're different. It doesn't mean, the trouble with what's happening right now is these really negative forces like the Steve Bannons of the world are convincing us that we're separate, that we're not the same country, that there's two countries. There's not two countries. I can break bread with anybody in this country. I love people in this country. I love the heartland of this country. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, it's become obvious that the choice was a bad one. We just need to change it. And if you can't vote for a Democrat, at least let all this flood of information that's so negative and so obvious keep you home.
It's hard to imagine, by the way Carrey speaks, that he's looked into these issues he so boldly takes hard stances on, likely never having actually heard Steve Bannon in context. The sidebar here is that even on a Monk debate featuring Bannon, he was shown to have changed hundreds of minds in the audience with an obviously non-hateful set of critiques and policy suggestions. A quick backpedal by Monk the following day claimed that due to technical error, they displayed the wrong information, claiming that 0 people had actually changed their mind. Now this echoes the same sentiment of folks like Carrey, who plug their ears and rely on others telling them what is what, freeing themselves from any of the hard work, yet are so certain at the same time, so sure, that they have the moral high ground. Any questioning or the slightest inkling that they've been misled into their prophecy is so potentially damaging that blissful ignorance is a better pathway. This is why we see such strong reactions at protests and displays of political opinion. When people's cemented views are questioned, when you allow your viewpoints to build a glass house around you, one rock of truth can make it all come crumbling down. As history shows, Carrey has been building this foundation or portfolio of establishment talking points for nearly 30 years. While corporate media was ready and willing to describe all hip-hop music as harmful for simply expressing their reality in the early 90s, Carrey took it upon himself to mock 2 of the only white rappers in the genre.
Yo, VIP, let's kick it. I'm white, and I'm capitalizing on a trend that's currently rising. Mix it with Curly and Larry and Moe. Whoop, 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 whoop. Hey, yo! When's it gonna stop? Maybe never. I become richer with every endeavor. I'm living large and my bank is stupid, cause I just listen to real rap and stupid.
Monsters. They say you took something that belonged to them. And man, they gon' kick your white ass.
Imposter, I'm just a middle-class worker from Toronto. In spite of how I sound, single one platinum bigger than Marley and Jimmy and Yellowman, but I'm not even mulatto. My reggae's watered down. Hear me on the radio, think I could not be blacker, but on my video you see I'm really a cracker.
In reality, of course, they are just parody songs and a form of comedy, but let's put ourselves in Carrey's shoes for a minute. In present day, he attacks other comedians and sides with the corporate narrative on many issues. Imagine if, in 1992, parody song giant Weird Al Yankovic decided to claim wrongdoing on the part of Carrey as a fellow parody writer.
My wife and realize she's very plain, but that's just perfect for an Amish like me. You know I shun fancy things like electricity.
Carrey in these songs essentially claims that Snow and Vanilla Ice are too white to be performing a genre of music that they admire. While Vanilla Ice did have a fabricated background story, none of it included that he was a gangbanger of some kind or grew up in Compton, for example, rather that he was a motocross champion among other things. He also never portrayed himself as a tough guy either. In the case of the Toronto rapper Snow, he's guilty of simply liking reggae and hip-hop. If you don't know, Toronto is a very large and diverse Caribbean community, and Snow never claimed to be Caribbean or anything. This is unacceptable in Jim Carrey's mind if we are to take him seriously as he takes Louis C.K. seriously. Given his current stances, it wouldn't be a stretch to think that Carrey would use the excuse of cultural appropriation or racism as a reason for his parody songs. He's fighting what he sees as an injustice, and even though the polarities have now been switched, and nowadays those who would defend his right to perform such comedy would likely be more conservative, the mountain of evidence that Carrey blows with the wind is not finished here. These early acts by Carrey were writing on the wall for his social justice future. It took one tragedy for Carrey to disavow his part in the movie Kick-Ass 2, ruining months of hard work by many people on a movie that has nothing to do with said tragedy. Apparently, school shootings before Sandy Hook didn't happen. There was no gun violence in LA where Carrey was shooting his TV shows and movies, and no murders in Chicago before 2013 either. But all it takes is one big media story and Carrey will do whatever the TV tells him to. This obvious but well-meaning hypocrisy is not the most disturbing part of the story, no. But this next part, which has a heavy emphasis on the disclaimer and the word allegedly, is a little more disturbing. The following text messages are presented by themanews.com, allegedly from the ex-husband of Catriona White, a woman who dated Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey was involved in an ugly dispute with White, who committed suicide in 2015, and her ex-husband and mother claimed Carrey was responsible in part for causing this. It is important to note that the case against Carrey was dismissed, and his lawsuit against White specifically was settled out of court. There are two ways to look at these text messages, two points of view, as there always seems to be. Most importantly, though, is that we don't know the truth. In no way do I wish to drag Carrey's name through the mud on this level. Do I disagree with him politically? Oh yes. But do I want him to be portrayed unjustly? No. Carrey's legal representation's argument was that White forged an STD test to blackmail Carrey into paying her, and judging by the text messages we are led to believe that he likely did pay her, hence the out-of-court settlement. From Carrey's side, he's dealing with a crazy person trying to extort him and send text messages purposely meant to make him look at fault, and her look as the victim. However, from White's side, it would be that a famous man who you once loved and claimed to love her, gave her 3 STIs and introduced her to hard drugs and prostitution as per her letter. Now, I don't trust Carrey's conjecture, nor does he pass my litmus test for a person making credible claims about the information he clearly hasn't checked into. I also don't buy his stoner take on the world and how everything ties together.
No, I'm doing just fine. I just, there's no meaning to any of this. So I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join, and here I am.
Well, they say they're celebrating icons inside.
Celebrating
Do you believe
icons,
in icons?
boy, that is just the absolute lowest aiming, possibility that we could come up with. It's like icons. Do you believe in icons? I don't believe in personalities. I don't believe that you exist, but there is a wonderful fragrance in the air.
It's not that I don't buy what he's saying, it's that I don't buy this as being prolific or woke knowledge. This is basically an 18-year-old's conclusion after spending the summer before college getting stoned and surfing YouTube. White did commit suicide, and that is no joke. But what throws a stick in the spokes for me on this one is her lawyer at the time, who was encouraging all these suits and signing off on her statements. That was, if you can believe it, Corporal, as I call him, Michael Avenatti. The point stands, however, Carrey's history of poor interpretations of what he sees as righteous stands against injustice are sadly not well thought out. The evidence shows he can be easily fed a narrative that if it makes him feel bad, he will burst out of the gate with enthusiasm regardless of whether or not he understands what's going on, regardless if he understands that there's media bias present. It's this adolescent approach combined with his obviously basic level of wokeness that makes me think his latest reach to Louis C.K. is yet another detached botch. Jim, do you not realize that you were accused of giving a girl 3 STDs and ditching her very harshly? It might not be wise to attack Louis C.K., who, as a fellow comedian, isn't actually guilty of any crimes in a court of law either. Beloved from my childhood, this is how many of us must come to terms with those who have fallen ill to Hollywood elitism or useful idiocy, no matter what political side they fall on. No doubt we are seeing this with people like Kanye West. Do we continue to cherish any future classics like Dumb and Dumber or Ace Ventura from other actors we disagree with? Or do we put our wallets away and instead say we cannot support the very same political actors whose words have consequences? And usually, those consequences are those who partake in the demise of their own social freedoms, while still thinking they are morally free.